So we saw this a Chinese vessel ramming the Philippine vessel. This is just the overnight. Now, this is just the latest in a series of skirmishes between the Chinese and Philippine vessels. Is this likely? Are we likely to see an all-out conflict on the waters once President Marcos actually ratifies this new Maritime Border Act?
Look, it is a really concerning incident that occurred yesterday, and it has been a consistent trend from China to be quite aggressive towards the Philippines in the Philippines exclusive economic zone. In terms of your question, are we likely to see a significant response to potential conflict after this bill is ratified? The answer to that is no. In terms of the bill that is going through the Philippines at the moment, that is likely to be ratified by their president soon, it's about recognising their maritime zones. We have similar things in Australia. China has talked this up, of course, in terms of the rhetoric, but it's really just about the Philippines establishing where their baselines are, which is where their exclusive economic zone is drawn from. And if we think back to 2016, there was an arbitral tribunal that really looked at China's claims in the South China Sea, specifically to do with the Philippines EEZ. And it was very clear that the low tide elevations, so the areas like yesterday that we saw at Second Thomas Shoal, are part of the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, and they have rights over those.
Now, I wonder if you could explain to us how much of an overlap from China's claim of the waters and where the Philippine maritime border is.
Look, it's a significant overlap. So effectively, China is claiming a thing called a 9-dash line, as the viewers can see on your screen. That makes up 80% of the South China Sea, and it overlaps the Philippines exclusive economic zone, which extends 200 nautical miles from the Philippines, but also overlaps the exclusive economic zones of Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia. So it's not just the Philippines that this concern is raised with. Now, in 1947 is when China first claimed this 9-dash line. Despite China's objections otherwise, there's no real historical precedent. And it is completely against the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which outlines a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. So it overlaps substantially with the Philippines exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea. And the area that we saw in challenge yesterday, Second Thomas Shoal, that's only one of the areas. There's been a number of challenges around a lot of the small islands or low tide elevations within the EEZ.
Now, the US has reiterated its support for the Philippines, says that it will defend the Philippines. How much are we going to see more of US Navy vessels patrolling the waters?
Look, we're already seeing an increase of US Navy vessels patrolling the waters since the US really pivoted back to the Indo-Pacific. What we haven't seen is them supporting the Philippines in terms of these resupplies of Second Thomas Shoal, which is what was occurring yesterday. And I don't think we're going to see that soon. But we will see an increased number of joint patrols, an increased number of exercises. And that's something Australia is doing too. So Australia has really ramped up its maritime cooperation with the Philippines in the last 12 months. Of course, we've signed our strategic agreements with the Philippines. We've conducted our first maritime cooperative activity. So I think you will see more US ships and assets in the region, but you also see more Australian support as well. And if you think about why, Australia has one of the largest exclusive economic zones in the world, and we derive a lot of our support to our economy from that. We can't afford a power like China, or a revisionist power, to try and undermine the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, because not only is it undermining international law, but it also has implications for our own maritime zones.
Yeah. But I did read, too, that Beijing has signalled that it might start talks on a similar agreement that Canberra already has with Manila. That's going to put Australia in a very difficult position.
Yeah, look, I actually think that's quite unlikely, but it's not really clear what is being talked about. So we know that following the meeting between our Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, and Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, this week, the Chinese spokesman highlighted that they would be focusing on maritime cooperation with Australia. Now, what that actually means is not clear. I think it would be difficult for Australia to do more than just communicate on maritime issues with China. And I think that as things continue to escalate in the region, we saw the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., on the 7:30 report recently, talking about his concern that one of these incidents could escalate into conflict. Certainly, one of the things that we need to do to make sure that we can de-escalate those situations is have communication. And that's something our foreign minister's been talking on a lot. So if the signalling from China this week is that they would like to have more communication on maritime cooperation, I think that's fantastic. But I actually can't see Australia going beyond that point at the moment, because it would be a difficult signal to the region for us to work with China on maritime matters when China is actively undermining the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea in the region.